Hello, guys. Welcome. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Teachings. All right, guys. Start of another week. Start of another week. Nothing crazy today, but we saw market hold up today. VIX is still elevated. VIX is not really dying down, but we saw a lot of names trying to get over the 1 hour EMA clouds or 1 hour MTF clouds. So we're going to discuss those names and see what happened, right? So even the market was pretty volatile today, up down, up down. That's what market was doing. It has been trying to get over the MTF clouds all day. Then we'll talk about other some of our winning trades. My personal trades, PLTR, SMCI. We'll talk about those. Then we'll talk about NVDA, other names from our watch list. Not a lot to recap today. Most of the morning after the morning I was personally sitting on hand, but there were decent plays for that moved. So we'll talk about them. So let's do a quick introduction before we start, guys. So all these trade recaps and teachings are from any trade ideas that we discuss in the community. If you're new to me, new to my Twitter, new to my YouTube, or new to my community, all these trade ideas and recaps are from any trades that we are either taking in the community, any trade idea I share on Twitter, or any trade idea I share on YouTube. All these ideas are from repeatable setup. We do not trade random. We trade a repeatable system that thousands of traders across the world use to trade consistently. We have repeatable setups that we trade again and again and again. We do not randomly buy or sell anything. If our setup shows up, then we either buy long or we short or buy puts. So that's how we trade. So every morning my team creates the game plan for the day based upon the news plays, earnings, market plays, downgrades, upgrades. So you can see the game plan here for today. There were a bunch of names that we were watching: SOXL, TSM, PayPal, SMMT, ARM, Tesla, Apple, Boeing, Costco, CrowdStrike, bunch of others. Some of them will trigger. We have initial buys, support and resistance, and initial game plan. Some of them will not trigger, right? If I like something out of that, then I share with the community. Like today I like the PLTR. That was the number one play, and then we traded it, right? So I gave a game plan in the pre-market. We'll review that. We'll watch it and check it out. Then we'll look at some other plays as well, how they planned out from the initial game plan. I also share in the community my Ripster day 2 day 3 plays. This is a repeatable strategy that I did a free webinar on. So we have our system, how we play this based on support, resistance pivots, and the EMA cloud systems that we play our day 2 day 3 setups. You can watch this webinar in the community. Then I also share daily levels for SPY, QQQ, IWM, Apple, Microsoft, among others. So we can take these levels, which are pretty effective on a trend day. These levels were solid last week when we shorted the market all week, and sometimes they are not that helpful when it's choppy market, because if the stock doesn't break that level, it usually chops around. Then we also have a low float watch list. Today there were definitely some movers on the low floors. RILY was a nice low float mover today in the community. We'll review that. There were a bunch other as well in the community. I'm usually on a voice first few hours when the market opens, guiding through the trades, long or short, what trade I'm taking, what I'm looking at the market, and most of my timestamped comments in my alerts feed. 1,000+ traders are on the trading floor, sharing the trade ideas, long, short, calls, puts all day long. So we try to find our good setups so that we can make some profit. If we lose small, and if we make profit, make good profits, right? We are always looking for profitable trade setups. We have scanners all day in the community. We have a voice alerts on the stocks. We have news squawk, breaking news all day. Very active trading floor in the community. So anyways, let's start with the trades in the community and go one by one. So let's start with the SPY QQQ market trades. What were we trying to do today? What was going on? So market was pretty volatile, up and down today. So let's see what was happening. Let's first of all, as you know, my SPY VIX strategy that I teach every day, and which has thousands of traders use this SPY VIX strategy every day to change consistently. Not going to spend too much time on that. You can watch my previous videos on SPY VIX strategy, but the plan on VIX was simple this morning. I even tweeted about it. Let me see if I can find that. Let me see. So plan was simple. If the market has to bounce, VIX has to fade under 2140, and over 2140 we have a little problem for the markets. So anyways, so let's see what was happening initially when the market opened. So let me just expand it more so you guys can see it. So VIX started to break. VIX started to break right out of the gate. And then that's when I was like, yes, we can scalp the longs into 10 a.m. So that was fine. So that was our trade. Let's look here. So I said you can do starter long, small size into the amateur moves. So SPY was a long 544.30s. And we were pushing it into the MTF clouds. SPY pushed nicely, almost $2, $1.50. It was okay, nothing crazy. Same for QQQ, was pushing nicely, and it was pushing nicely. So same for QQQs, was pushing nicely into the MTF clouds. And you see that there's MTF daily, there's MTF 1 hour, so much resistance. And at the same time, VIX started to bounce. VIX started to bounce, we break 512. This was resistance. That's when I tell everybody get out. That's where everybody told everybody get out. Few traders in the community did short it. You know, we pulled back into the gap, and then VIX goes back to 21, and VIX rejects 21. Right? It's the same level that I talked in the morning. VIX rejects 21 and market starts to bounce. SPY tries to bounce, gets bullish. QQ try to bounce, gets bullish. I personally did not trade that, but that's a midday setup. You can trade this long over 3450s and back into MTF clouds. A lot of traders were trading that based upon SPY VIX strategy. So it was the same strategy, right? The same thing that I mentioned in the morning. So VIX, you know, SPY bounces, VIX bounces, you get out. VIX rejects, you get in, you trade it. You know, we didn't expect this big move, and then again it pushed back, and then SPY bounced 1920. Then again we rejected from the MTF clouds. We again rejected from the MTF clouds, then came back again. So I personally avoided this up down, although a lot of traders did trade this move. It was a big move. I mean, even if you take 450, 160s, you know, it was a decent $3 $3 move. So that was all SPY today. Nothing special for me because I'm waiting for this 1 hour cloud to turn bullish. And it was an inside day on SPY today. That's why I was personally not doing much, you know, because it was an inside day. When it's inside day, you know, we can always chop. So we'll see how tomorrow goes, guys. But today was, that's about it. But we will recap the other plays now. So that's really what I'm waiting for. You know, better move on the daily chart and 1 hour turn bullish. So close was pretty. Close was encouraging today, right? We did bounce a lot from the gap down on Friday. So let's see, you know, how what market does. A lot of data this week, guys. There's PPI, CPI, core PPI, core CPI, jobless claims ahead of the 17th rate decision. I think it's on 17th. So market, hopefully, let's see what it does tomorrow. Inside the choppy today. Will be interesting to see what we do because there's going to be a lot of resistance on the market tomorrow. Will be interesting. All right, let's look at the other play today. This was my main play in the morning, my personal trade as well. I usually trade shares, but I was trading options. But before I do that, I want to show you the PLTR daily chart, why I like the PLTR daily chart. So you see here, what we are looking at is a nice weekly chart. So it's a big breakout here. So it's a big breakout. You see here, right here. So 33 was a breakout. I even tweeted about it. 33 was a nice breakout. It's a nice swing setup as well. So let's see how we traded it, how we day traded it. I kind of could have traded it better. I missed re-ads, but a lot of traders in the community were on top of it. Let's check it out. So as you see here, what we have here is added to S&P 500, bullish bias versus 30 to 20 gap fill under. So the plan was to long if 30 to 20 this area. This was our risk, right? So risk is already defined. We already have our risk defined right here. So as long as that level is holding, you know, we we will buy. So I was watching it. I was on the voice when I saw this swipe. That's what, and I told everybody it's a good long. And of course, I already gave the game plan, right, in the pre-market. So that's the cloud bounce. That's a pretty easy cloud bounce. It's a repeatable setup. This is a repeatable setup. I can do this again and again and again, 100 times. I can do the same thing. I don't have to do anything different. So we were long here. I was long 33 calls, which went on. I think my calls did go up to like 70 to 80%. Yeah. And then, I stopped out of the calls when we pulled back here. And I was away when it reclaimed, and that's even bullish. That's one of my golden rules, that if something reclaims 512, you get back in, your stops are right under those candles, and that's what PLTR did. It reclaimed and then it became bullish. And I gave the target of 35 to everyone. So that's what the target I gave, that it should push to 35, and then again it pushed almost $1 from that reclaim. You see that 512 reclaim, almost $1. And then probably we get some higher tomorrow. I know a lot of traders are swinging it on a PLTR because the daily and the weekly chart is pretty interesting. I really like it. So hopefully we can push more, maybe push to 38. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but definitely I would take some profits if it gaps up. My main trade was in the morning, had a decent size, 70-80% gains. So basically, if you traded $1,000 worth of options, you made $700-800. If you traded 5,000 worth of options, you made $3,500 or something. So that was a good trade this morning. Let's go to the next one. Another one of my personal trades today, which I really liked, was SMCI. The reason being that SMCI was over the 10-minute cloud. But the more impressive thing was today was the first day that SMCI was pushing over the 1-hour chart. Look here. SMC has been under 1-hour chart since August of 26th, right? You see that? Under, and it's the first time. So that's why, I'm even having holding some shares on swing side. So in the morning, let's look at what was the morning plan was on SMCI. So morning plan was, the initial trade was that we risk 387, 388, take the long trade, right? So it was holding, pushing towards 398, pushing to 400. There was a first trade that pushed to 400, room to 400, right? So that was our first trade that pushed to 405. You can take some profits, then it pulls back, but you see how 512s and 3450s are so close by. So you can risk that. Plus, I was looking for a bundle of like a swing trade as well, right? So day trade, you can of course take your profits, and if you want back in, you can get back in. But then there's a lot of flow started to came in, lot of flow started to came in. So a lot of flow started to came in, and I talked about that SMCI has a flow. I was on voice. I went on voice, told everybody right when it was breaking this area, there was a flow. And after I talked about the flow, SMCI pushed more, and then we pushed more. There was a 14-15 seller that cleared, and SMCI really pushed 417. So you can see that clearly from the morning. It was a $20 move if you were patient enough, and if you were not just scalping. Even if you were scalping, there was you could have made money. But definitely SMCI was one of today it was a different, right? It was a different from other days, that it had some kind of buy. Initially it was weak, but then suddenly buy came in. Initial rejection, you see that 1-hour rejection, and then 1-hour push, right? So it's a simple 1-hour trade. Still holding the shares, no trading the options. Just want to see that how it does. Will be very interesting to see. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. But that's definitely a nice winner today. 420 calls were good if you traded the calls. And also let's see how the swing does. We have a lot of buffer now on the swings. We have the buffer is right here. Hopefully it holds, doesn't break 400 anymore. That's what we want to see. Any pullbacks to 400 we can add. Let's look at some other trades in the community today. Let's look at NVDA. So with NVIDIA, the morning trade was pretty choppy. It was, pushing from a 104 into the MTF, rejecting, rejecting, rejecting. So that was like a morning trade was kind of a loser trade because it didn't really work, right? Because I personally didn't even like, you know, NVIDIA. There was a nice call flow at open. It did push from 104.86 to 106. There was a good long scalp you could take, but if you did not cut, if you were adding higher, then it was a loser and 512 breaks down. So then it did this all day, all day, all day. But what I really want to talk about is NVIDIA is this 1 hour push. This 1 hour push. So this is really encouraging. If we hold this tomorrow, then we can, long this 1 hour pullback. And a lot of people, it's still for good for swing as well. So tomorrow is very interesting. A lot of data this week. I don't know what's going to happen, but definitely same thing on AMD. There was no trade in the morning, but definitely there was a trade on this MTF breakout. So just wanted to discuss this MTF breakout. It's gapping up as well. So that's why it's interesting to watch tomorrow what it does. So both these AMD and NVIDIA were definitely nice moves on 1 hour MTF clouds. No position for me though in AMD, but really watch it for tomorrow. Let's look at the next one. Next one was a Taiwan semiconductor. It was on a watch list on the game plan from the pre-market. Let's look at the pre-market game plan here. So pre-market game plan on Taiwan Semi was long over the pivots 159, 160, 53. So when I saw the strength in the morning, I longed it. I risked this MTF clouds. We got a nice push, from 161 all the way to 163. $2, just a $2 per share profit. Nothing crazy, but you can see how it bounced later from the MTF clouds, and all day it continued to push. Semiconductors are really, did end up the day pretty nicely. So, but anyways, Taiwan Semi was a $2 long. You can see the timestamped guidance here. I get long in the morning, $2, 163. That's it. Let's look at some other plays from the game plan. There was this one SMMT. I highlighted it so that we can watch it. So 15, 20, 15 were support, resistance was 1650, gap fill under the clouds, long over it. And you see how it right at the open, it held those levels, and it started to push over the 1650 pivot I gave. So that was the long, and your stops are right here at $16. Very, very easy setup, very easy setup. And then it's flagging. So your clouds is your risk, and then there's a pre-market high breakout. A lot of traders in the community, actually M Trade was let me see, I think M Trade was guiding everybody on the trading floor. So many opportunities in the community to make money. So let's see here. So yeah, SMT and many other traders were guiding as well. You see SMT was a long 512 bounce, nice here push. From here you can see his guidance right here when it was bouncing. So easy setup, right? So all of these traders, they work with the repeatable system. That's why they're making consistent money, and that's why the senior traders in the community, and a lot of them were just brand new, right? Like everyone, and then they are just they just learned, and now everybody's executing. M Trade was on top of it. Let's see, yeah, RGB was also on top of it. So it was a good trade today, SMMT. Let's look at another one now. Let's look at another one. There was many movers in the community today. There was this one. This one was TERN. So TERN only long if holds $8, right? Obesity drug well tolerated, 840, 9 was the resistance. That was a breakout. Excuse me. You see how it pulls back, right? It pulls back to the $8, and then it holds that and reclaims that. So that tells you that it wants to be a long. Just showing you the different type of trades. I just showed you PLTR, so you can always long that. And then that's why it pushed, and then it pushed to $10, right? Even if you longed over the $9, the breakout I gave in the pre-market right here, you see that right here, 9 pivot, then still you could long, make like $1, and that's a good enough move, and just stop out when this breaks. So nice little trades in the from the game plan. So definitely those news plays are good if they have volatility. You just want to see your risk reward. But if you add closer to the clouds, it's better your risk reward. Just add here. Even if you add 9, you can risk like you have to risk like 40 cents here to make like $1. So not a best risk reward, but still a good play on that. Yeah, next one we're going to watch is Costco. So Costco was another decent play in the community. It was also from our game plan. I was busy in the other plays, but let's see what was our game plan on Costco. So Costco was raised, profit target raised by Morgan Stanley, bullish if MTF dailies hold, and you see the breakout over MTF daily. And Costco pushed right at open, pulled back, pulled. So just recap, just trying to recap for so that we know next time a similar setup comes. There were some other movers as well, coin and MSTR. We every day we provide these levels on coin and MSTR every day. You see the levels, and coin and MSTR have been beaten down so much, so much, so much. So I always try to focus on these these names. That's why I told in the pre-market as well. High watch on if we push over the clouds. So MSTR was a morning nice trade. You see how it pulls back to the MTF cloud and holds. So that's the morning trade was a good long, and you take your profits, and then you can always try it later in the day. I didn't trade this one, and the same for the coin. Morning trade was okay, MTF resistance, and then after slow grind. Coin still has a lot of room, not done yet. Let's see what market does. It came from 200. I mean, this one is a lot of volatility, but I want to see it over 1 hour cloud and see what it does. Same thing, MSTR is already over 1 hour cloud. I want to see it pull back and hold certain level, and maybe we can long that as well. Yeah, yeah, coin has a lot of room, more room than MSTR. Google was another one which was a short today. Initially it was a long, but when it broke 512s, I told everyone to exit the longs. I did warn them that's a short, it's not a long. Reason being, we had these levels. If I can show you the levels from the pre-market, let's look here. So if you look at these levels, Google 151, 150 was our support pivot. So once you see that this one, first of all, when 512 breaks, you exit, right? And then when this breaks, right here, you short it, and then this break confirms the short. So that was a short after that. Decent short. If you were trading that when this market was doing this, that was the Google short. Still not ready, pretty heavy. Have to watch tomorrow. 1 hour still bearish. Let's look at the next one. Next one was ARM. ARM was on our watch list in the morning. You see that there was a news. So bullish to neutral versus MTF clouds. So versus MTF clouds means that was our risk to buy ARM. So if you see my guidance and you see that I was saying versus MTF clouds, and you see that what was my level, right? What was my level? My level was support was 120. Where did ARM pull back to? 120. Where did it bounce from? MTF cloud. So you can long anywhere close to this one and make profits. A lot of traders were on ARM today from the game plan, but I alerted this breakout right here. You see the range break 123.70, and after that breakout it's continued to push as well to 126. So it was a decent trade even on this breakout alert. You see here range break, and this I just want you guys to carefully look at here the levels 120s and the MTF clouds. Both of those worked, right? So that's why this was such a clean level to long versus ARM. Very well done by the community today. Next one just we're gonna look at is RILY. So RILY was it was our low float play basically, right? And we were just playing it in the low float channel because if I show you here, RILY was on our watch list. Support was 540, resistance was 570, neutral to bullish bias. I had a breakout alert set on there, and you see that starts to break out. This one was mostly talking on the voice, and then it breaks out. My target was 640. It kind of pushed more to 650, Easy trades. Reason I like these at open, because there's no risk. I mean, 560, 570, I can just risk like 20 cents, right? And I make 70-80 cents. So that was the beauty of trades like these. So RILY, I mean, low float. I think Tape was on the calls. Tape also alerted RILY. You can see that he versus 580. And we talked about on the voice as well. I was talking about this on the voice. I think a lot of traders in our low float channel as well. William was on top of it. I talked about it as well. So it was definitely a good trade today. RILY, low float winner. RILY. There are some other low float winners as well. QNRX. So QNRX was, I saw it in the I saw it come on the scanners in. I saw it come on the scanners in, like before the close in power hours, and then I saw that there's a news. There's insider buying news, and I was watching if it holds this first push. You see the volume. So that's what I told. These ones usually run. These are like promoted names. These are definitely they run a lot, and the news was kind of bullish. Penny stock. I read the dilution tracker. They have their cash is $2.22. They're trading under the cash. They don't really need cash, so they're already half price of where the cash is. So it was a definitely worth risk and reward. That's why I told everybody that let's see if I can show you there where I said you know I said I will overnight it. I told everybody I will overnight it, and I got filled at 93 cents, and I'm up nicely. I sold a little bit after hours, and then probably I'll sell more tomorrow, but it can definitely push more. So decent winner in the community, keeping the 1/3 size. That was I love. I don't trade too much of these pennies, but with the history of a lot of these names, with a small float, they can really they can really run. So QNRX was a decent trade. I have set some price alerts. Uh, QNRX, if you have trades like this, you have to watch my low float webinar, or you study, go to ripstereducation.com. If you can't watch the webinars, study the small cap day trades, right? You will understand how these setups work. So I make sure that new traders should stay away, because they don't really know. I don't want people to slap these trades. So I make sure that I guide really nicely on what's the risk reward is. So you will learn a lot. Watch the webinar, watch the Ripster education, trade recaps, and it's a repeatable setups, right? QNRX never gave me a reason to cut. It was holding 512s, 512s, 512s. And you see it breaks one psychological level, 105, 106, 105, 122. So, so that's how we were trading this in the low floor channel. QNRX. So decent day, good day. So those were, my few trades. I had a couple of large caps, SMCI swings, and this couple of low floors. So a decent day for small caps, actually. So that was good, guys. Hopefully, you guys learned something today, and hopefully, you learned a lot about MTF clouds. You learned a lot about how to manage the slow day. We'll restart again. Take care. Bye bye.